Well, it was good to have our guys had a couple days off, had Friday and Saturday to kind of rest up and recover a little bit. I thought we looked completely different on Sunday. Just looked like the guys were revitalized a little bit and fresh, had a good day's practice. I think it was good for us, the coaching staff, to kind of get back on schedule. It was a tough 2 weeks just in terms of trying to figure out, how to navigate through them. But I thought our players handled it about as well as they could. Was proud of they just kind of kept rolling, and thought they showed a lot of poise in how they handled it. Because it wasn't ideal, and again there was guys trying to take midterms and all that stuff, and I thought they worked through it pretty well. So good to get back to a normal schedule. Have practice today and have a good Tuesday and a good Wednesday practice, and look forward to playing against a good Washington team Saturday night. It'll be a big challenge for us, but I think our guys are excited about it.
Yeah, Sonny, Davis, a little Freudian slip. Davis mentioned kind of offhand that Chad would be back, and then he disappeared in a puff of smoke. What do you have to say about Chad Hansen coming back?
Yeah, I think Chad will be back. I mean, we'll see how he progresses this week. I think we kind of thought he might be back 2 weeks ago, and certainly hoped he'd be back last week. And so I don't know. The thing you don't want to do with an ankle is you don't want to put him out there if he's not, close to 100% at that position. If you're a D lineman, you're a little bit more apt to work through an ankle injury in O lineman, whereas a wide receiver, you just have to do a lot of changing of directions and explosive type things that, require you to be pretty healthy. And so, he'll practice today, in a limited capacity, hopefully do a little bit more tomorrow, and, and hopefully we'll see him on Saturday. That's the goal.
Coach, can you talk about just going against another ranked opponent at home and then defending home turf and how that was all played in?
Yeah, I think our guys play with confidence at home. I really do. I think that, I think it's an advantage, the fact that we practice in our stadium all the time. I mean, there's just a familiarity and a sense of, a sense of confidence that comes from having an on-campus facility here and being able to practice in it every day. And I think it's just you feel a sense of security, I guess. And so when we play here, it seems like our guys have figured out ways to make plays in critical situations. And you go back and you look at our season, we had a drive at San Diego State to win the game at the end, and we didn't make a couple of plays down the stretch. You look at Arizona State, kind of the same thing. We had an opportunity with that game to win the ball game and didn't do it. So you go back and you look at us, the games on the road that we've played, we haven't been able to figure out a way to make those plays. Oregon State, for example, same thing, had a chance to win the game in regulation, had a couple of opportunities to get the ball in the end zone and didn't make the play. Well, we've been able to make those plays here. The Texas game, needed to get a defensive stop at the end of the ball game, found a way to do it, and then and we're able to run the clock out. Obviously the goal line stand, against Utah. And so, we've played a lot of really competitive football games that have come down to the end of the game, and it seems like for whatever reason we've made those plays here at home and haven't made them on the road. And that's always the kind of the last step as a program is to play with that same confidence on the road that you play at home. And this will be a big challenge for us Saturday. Washington's a good football team. I mean, these guys, they know how to stop you. They know how to move the ball. They're really executing well. They've just been real consistent in their performance. But a big part of being successful is having confidence, and I think our guys will have that confidence on Saturday.
They seem to be able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback without bringing extra rushers. How unique is that, and what kind of challenge?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to do a whole lot defensively. I think that the sign of a good defense is that you're good at playing base defense. I think that's the teams that are always hard to move the ball against are the ones that will line up the same way they're going to show you different looks on the back end. They're going to rotate their safeties and change coverage and do different things on the back end. But, the looks you're going to see up front are pretty constant. They're going to move their front around and do some things. And when they needed some plays against Utah in some critical situations last week, they blitzed more than they have. But they haven't had to. And, when you can play base defense, and then that allows you to be able to leverage the ball and play consistent with your techniques and kind of understand all the nuances that make defensive football teams good. That's a great thing to be able to do, and it always starts up front. Your ability to be able to stop the run is gonna start up front, and they've got a bunch of big defensive tackles that are good players that are interchangeable in a lot of ways, and they require double teams. They get penetration. They'll knock you off the ball. And so what you have to be able to do is, when you're double teaming those guys, those linebackers are making a lot of plays, and I think their linebackers are really good players. I mean, those guys are active and athletic and tackle well and play physical. And so, it's just a very, very good defensive football team.
Sonny, what's your level of concern about getting off to a quick start against these guys? They start fast against everybody. And also, how much did it change your game at SC when you guys had the deep ball that Demetrius just couldn't hold on to?
Yeah. I think, like I said earlier, I think, it would have been fun to, make that play and just see how that would have been different, how the game would have been different. I think it would have given us a little bit of a confidence boost. It seemed like it took the air out of us a little bit, and we want to get to the point where that doesn't bother us, where we're resilient enough to where, hey, look, we drop a ball, who cares, and we're moving on. And again, we've kind of had that attitude at home, necessarily haven't had it on the road. I think we've been a little bit searching a little bit for somebody to make a play on the road, where it just seems like we've made those plays at home. But it's always important to start fast when you're playing against good people. I think that's one of the things Washington's done well this year is they've gotten off to such a good start. It's played into their hands. In other words, people have had to try to drop back and throw against them, and they've got a good enough pass rush where if you try to do that, and try to drop back and throw it a lot, they're going to get to your quarterback, and so it's always important to start good, but probably especially this week.
Sonny, now it looks like, just watching the Utah game, they don't run a real hurry-up offense. Is that correct? Can you just kind of describe what the sort of things that they do in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, they're a deliberate offense. They're gonna show you a lot of different looks. They're never gonna let you get settled in. They're gonna shift in motion and move and try to create. Try to create gaps in the run game and create good matchups for them. They do a really good job of manipulating the defense to get them in a look that they want to run the ball against, or a look that they want to throw it against, where they can get a really good receiver on one of your not so good cover guys. And so it's a deliberate offense that's, they do a nice job scheming you up and do a lot of good things, and they've executed really well. And I think that's the big thing. It's just, good football teams execute at a high level, and these guys execute well.
Sonny, did you have a conversation with or get an explanation from the conference about the non-call and pass interference in the end zone?
No, I didn't. I think sometimes, officials are like everybody else. They make mistakes sometimes, and the best thing to do is just move on and let it go. But I don't have a lot of those conversations with anybody from the conference.
Also, about the defense, I'm trying to understand if there is any kind of relationship between how you play defense and the pace of play on offense.
Well, I think there certainly is. I mean, just because, if you're going fast, then and you're snapping the ball with time on the clock, there's going to be more plays run. And so it all depends on how you choose to evaluate a defense. You know what I mean? What's the, how do you determine whether a defense is good or not? And if you go back to the old method and you look at total yards, then whoever the teams that go fast are statistically probably not going to be as good as other teams, just because there's going to be more plays. I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't. I can figure that out, and so the statistic I think that really determines how good somebody is defensively. I think one of them is yards per play, because I think that truly shows what you're giving up and how efficient other offenses are against your defense. And then the other things are, third down and red zone defense. I mean, those are the things that truly matter. I think the total yardage is a little bit of an antiquated way to think about judging a defense, but that's my 2 cents worth.
Where do you feel like you guys are in terms of the evolution of your defense?
Well, I mean, we're certainly not where we want to be. I mean, we'd like to be a lot better than we are. We've had some challenges with depth and injuries and personnel. I mean, that's been a big part of it. We're doing the best we can with what we have at this point.
Do you feel like recruiting-wise, other teams use your style of offense against you?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think there's. Look around the league. I mean, there's enough teams that are going fast. That. I don't think so at all. No.
Sonny, what is Washington doing to create as many turnovers as they do? I think they're plus 13. They obviously don't give the ball up much either, but they've taken the ball away 19 times. What do they do, and what are you telling your guys that you have to do to prevent that?
Yeah, what happens is, and I don't know, I had this conversation with somebody earlier this week, is, if you go back and you look at, and you really wanted to dig deep into what makes a quarterback a good quarterback, you know what I mean? How do you truly evaluate a good quarterback, and what's the method for doing that? I think if you look at it, and you say, okay, we're going to look at this numbers, which, passing efficiency, okay? Well, I don't know this. I've never done this study, but I'd be willing to bet you that if you took the teams that were the best teams at passing efficiency in college football, those teams are going to be some of the best teams at defense in college football. And you're going to say, well, what do those two things have in common? Well, they actually have a lot in common. Because if you're playing really good defense, then what that means is, number one, you're going to get more opportunities to have the football because you're getting people stopped and they're not keeping the ball away from you. Which means if you get more opportunities, you're going to have more yards. But the big thing that you're going to have is you're going to have less turnovers. And the reason that comes into play, because if you're a quarterback and you're playing with a lead, or you're a quarterback and you're playing on a team that you say, look, our defense is going to stop these guys all the time, then your approach to the game is much different. Your approach to the game is much different as a play caller. It's much different as a coach, and it's certainly much different as a player. Because, all of a sudden now you become a little bit more of a game manager, which people think game managing is a bad thing. Game managing is actually a very good thing. Because, what you're saying is, look, if I don't beat us, then we're going to figure out a way to win this ball game. You go back to your own experiences. Year 2, when I was at Louisiana Tech, we had the best defense in our conference. And so what we decided to do, and we had the best punter in college football. So what we did is we did not turn the ball over. That became our number one thing. If we happen to score, you know what, that's a bonus. But the most important thing is don't turn the ball over, because we can get these guys stopped. And so, when you look at all those different things that affect an outcome of a game and that affect a quarterback's decision making, when you're in 3rd and long and you're feeling pressure and you're down 14 points, you're more apt to play a little bit more reckless than you are if you have a 14-point lead and you're in 3rd and 3. Because if you're in 3rd and 3 and the receiver's not open, you throw the ball away, you punt it, and you move on down the road. Whereas if you're down 14 or 21 or 28 or whatever, then all of a sudden you're forcing a ball, trying to make a play, and it results in an interception. And so all these things play into each other when you sit down and you try to evaluate a football team, and particularly a quarterback. And so the quarterbacks, again, that do the best job of protecting the football are the ones that, in most cases, have a good defense. And it's not taking anything away from the quarterback. It's actually giving a lot of credit to him because he's managing the game the best way that's going to allow his team to win the game. And that's really what a quarterback's job is.
There's a field position component to that, too.
Yeah, sure there is. There always is. Yeah. But you can't just, that's the thing about it. People look at numbers and you can manipulate statistics any way you want to, but they're all tied to each other.
You talk about good quarterbacks. You're facing another one this week. Could you? How has he progressed, and what does he do that makes him so?
Yeah, it does just exactly what I described earlier. It does, manages the game the way a good guy's supposed to manage the game. And again, people there's a negative connotation to game manager, and that is the quarterback's number one job, is to manage the game. When you're supposed to run it, run it. When you're supposed to throw it, throw it. Don't force balls. Take what the defense gives you. All those things are positives. And he does that as well as anybody. He did it in high school as well as anybody. And so the kid's a winner. He was a winner in high school. He's a winner, at Washington right now. I mean, he knows what it takes to give them a chance to win. And again, that's about the highest praise you can give a quarterback.
Sonny, can you give us an update on Aaron Cochran, Josh Drayden, Tony McCarry?
Yeah. Tony will play. We think Aaron will play. He'll practice today in a limited capacity, but I would imagine he'll play, and then Josh Drayden will not play.
Leg injury.
Shoulder.
And Darius.
We'll see.
Who starts at corner if he can't go and Josh can't
I don't know. We'll see. We're kind of see. I hopefully we think Darius will. Hopefully that's the hope.
Any other questions?
Can I ask you about their return specialists?
Yeah.
They've scored 3 touchdowns. They obviously won the game with one last week. Do you kick away from those guys? What's your strategy for
You always,
guys like that?
the big thing for us is just we got to be able to cover kicks and punts. And we were close to getting a couple away from us last week. Adoree had a long punt return early in the ball game, and then we tried to rugby kick another time, and he caught it on the bounce and gave up another kind of lengthy return. You got to cover. I mean, that's the biggest thing for us. And, when you have injuries and you start to lose depth, that's where it probably affects you more than anything else is on special teams, and especially your coverage units. When you have the number of guys down, and particularly defensive backs, those are the guys that play on special teams. And so, when you have 7 safeties out, then, that's 7 guys that aren't on special teams that would probably be on your kickoff team, probably all 7 of them, and 5 or 6 of them would be on your punt team. And so all of a sudden, that's where that stuff gets impacted as much as anything else, are your coverage units. So that's we've been a little bit banged up in those. Good thing is we're going to get a couple of guys back this week, I think, that can help us in some of those units. And the big thing we've got to do is we've got to do a good job punting the ball and then covering and getting them on the ground, and same thing in kickoff.
Who specifically do you think you're going to get back?
Well, I think we're going to get back Jacob Anderson. We're going to get back Fabiano Hale, who's part of our punt team and kickoff team. Jacobs was on both as well. Those are the 2 guys that come to mind. I think that Ashton Davis has been out and been kind of banged up. I think we'll get Ashton back, which will make a big difference in our coverage units as well. So those are the guys.
questions?
With the, I mean, you saw in 2013 how lack of depth hurt when you start having the injuries all pile up and injuries are piling up again. How do you address that depth on defense going forward? Is it a recruiting thing?
Yeah, I mean, we have 85 scholarships, and all of them are full. So, but unfortunately, we can't sign free agents, or we don't have an injured reserve or any of that stuff. And so, we have 43 defensive players on scholarship. Actually, yeah, 43. And so we've got more defensive players than we do offensive players. We've got 43 defense, 40 on offense, and 2 specialists.